The city of the Giantess warriors was loud and alive, their stone towers reaching higher than the human could believe. Everywhere he looked, massive figures walked with strength and grace, their armor shining in the sun, their voices deep and echoing across the streets. The human kept his head low as he walked, trying not to draw attention. He was smaller than everyone here, and every step he took reminded him of how fragile he seemed among them. He had come only to trade supplies, but now he wished he had never entered this place. The crowd pushed around him, and he stumbled in the sea of tall warriors. A careless shove could break his bones. A fall could crush him beneath their feet. Just as panic began to rise in his chest, a massive hand reached down and caught him before he fell. He looked up in shock and saw her, a giantess warrior with silver hair that glowed in the light, her eyes bright and sharp like molten fire. Her grip was strong, yet careful, holding him as if he were delicate glass. She lifted him slightly, making sure he stood steady again. The human's heart raced, and without thinking, he blurted out words that would change everything. "Thank you, you are very beautiful," he said, his voice shaking but polite. The street fell into sudden silence, the crowd turning to stare. The giantess froze, her fiery eyes widening, her lips parting in shock. The crowd began to whisper, their voices carrying excitement and disbelief. "He complimented her," one warrior muttered. "In public, in front of all of us." Another laughed. "Does he even know what that means here?" The human frowned, confused by the sudden reaction. He had only wanted to show respect, to be polite. But the giantess stepped closer, her shadow falling over him, her face unreadable. Her voice rang out loud, carrying across the entire street. "You dare to speak such words to me, little human? Do you understand the weight of them?" The man stammered. "I only meant, I was just thanking you." Her eyes narrowed, and her lips curved into something between a smile and a challenge. "Among my people," she said, her voice echoing. "Such words are no small matter. They are a bond, a vow, a declaration. Once spoken, they cannot be taken back." The human's stomach dropped, his heart pounding in his chest. The crowd erupted into cheers and chants, their voices rising like thunder. "He has chosen her," someone shouted. "A human has given the vow." The ground shook as the giantesses stomped their feet, the air filled with excitement. The giantess leaned down, her face close to his, her eyes burning with intensity. "You have spoken, and now you will do your duty," she said firmly. The human's mouth opened in shock, his voice lost. "What duty?" he whispered, but his words were drowned out by the roar of the crowd. Before he could escape, she lifted him gently but firmly into her arms, her strength impossible to resist. The human struggled, his mind spinning, but she held him as though he were hers already. The other giantess warriors laughed, some clapping, some shouting challenges. "Prove him worthy," one called. "Let us see if a human can stand by your side." The human looked around desperately, his face pale. He wanted to explain, to shout that it was only politeness, only words, but no one would listen. The crowd saw only tradition, and the giantess saw only a promise that had been made. She turned with him in her arms, carrying him through the towering gates of the fortress. Inside, the massive halls echoed with chants. Banners of battles hung across the walls. The human's heart raced faster, fear and disbelief crashing into him. He whispered to himself, "All this because of a compliment." The giantess stopped and looked down at him, her expression calm but unyielding. "Yes," she said, as if she had heard his thought. "A compliment is no small thing among my people. It binds us, it binds you." The human swallowed hard, realizing his mistake was far greater than he imagined. Every step deeper into the fortress felt like a step into chains. And yet, in her eyes, he saw no cruelty, no malice, only determination. The crowd outside still cheered, their voices echoing into the night. The human knew then that his life would never be the same. The fortress of the giantess warriors was carved from black stone, its walls towering like mountains. banners hanging heavy with the marks of victory. Inside, the air was filled with the sound of drums, chants, and the heavy steps of warriors. Returning from battle, the human, still in the arms of the silver-haired giantess, felt his chest tighten as eyes turned toward him. Hundreds of them, sharp, curious, and mocking. He had never felt smaller, never felt more out of place, yet escape was impossible. Her hold on him unyielding, she carried him through a great hall where fire burned in massive braziers. The heat shimmering against polished armor, the warriors fell silent as she stepped forward, placing him gently but firmly on a stone platform before her throne. Her voice rose above the silence, clear and commanding. This human has spoken the vow. He has given words of bond before the eyes of all, and now he is mine. The hall erupted with laughter and disbelief. Giantesses pointing, their voices carrying both scorn and amusement. A human, as your choice, one sneered. He is fragile, he is weak, one strike would end him. Another leaned forward, her smile cruel. Perhaps she keeps him as a pet, not as a partner, the human flushed, his fists clenching at their words, but he dared not speak. The silver-haired giantess raised her hand, and the laughter died instantly. Her gaze swept across the hall, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. You mock because you do not see what I see. Courage is not in size, but in spirit. This one spoke words with no fear, and tradition binds us to honor them. The human blinked, his heart pounding. He wanted to protest, to tell them it had been nothing but politeness. But her words carried weight, and to deny her here might doom him more quickly than silence. He stood awkwardly, his voice low. I did not mean to offend. The crowd burst into fresh laughter, their voices echoing like thunder. To offend, one roared. Human, you have done more. You have bound yourself. The giantess stepped closer, her shadow falling across him. Her tone was softer now, but her eyes still blazed with intensity. You cannot take back what is spoken. In my people's law, words are oaths. Oaths are life. You are tied to me now, and I to you. The human's mind spun with confusion. His breath quick and shallow, he thought of escape, of running. But the hall was filled with warriors, each one larger, stronger, and ready to cut him down if he tried. And though her grip had loosened, he felt the weight of invisible chains pressing harder than steel. Later, in her private chamber, she placed him on a carved stone table, her expression calmer than before. She leaned down, her voice quieter but still firm. You fear me, she said, but you must know. I will not harm you, I will not break the vow, and neither will you. The human shook his head quickly, his voice breaking. It was just a compliment, nothing more. In my people's way it means nothing. Just respect. Her eyes narrowed, her lips pressing into a line. In your way perhaps, but not here, in this city. Every word is law, and law is unbroken. She stepped back, her tall frame glowing in the firelight. Do not think I chose lightly. I am mocked because I never claimed another. I never wanted the strong, the loud, or the cruel, but you. You spoke with honesty, and now you are bound. The human stared at her, his chest heavy with dread. He wanted to hate her, to shout that she had twisted his words, but in her eyes he saw no malice, only conviction. It was not a trap to her. It was truth, and in that truth he was now caught. Voices outside the chamber grew louder, rival giantesses demanding to see him. They argued that the vow was a mistake, that a human could not be accepted. Some laughed that he would not last a single night. Others warned that her honor was a fragile thing and could be broken if he failed. She turned, her face hardening again, her voice sharp. No one will touch him, no one will take him. He is mine by law and by word. And if any challenge that, they will face me. The human's breath caught, realizing she was ready to fight her own kind for him. He had not asked for this, had not wanted it. Yet now his survival rested on her will. The giantess looked back at him, her tone softer once more. You are afraid, but fear will pass, duty will remain, and together we will walk it. The torches flickered, shadows dancing across the chamber. Walls. The human sat in silence, his hands trembling, his heart racing. The truth was clear: his life no longer belonged to himself. He had spoken a single compliment, and now it had become chains stronger than iron. And yet, in the firelight, when her eyes softened just slightly, he felt a shiver, not only of fear, but of something he could not yet name. The morning sun cast long shadows through the fortress halls, its golden light touching the banners of the Giantess warriors. The human woke on a soft fur mat laid out near the throne, his body still tense, his mind still caught in the storm of yesterday. Around him the giantesses trained with massive weapons, the clang of steel shaking the stone floor, their voices rising in laughter and challenge. He sat up slowly, feeling their eyes on him, some mocking, some curious, some filled with silent judgment. The silver-haired giantess entered the hall, her tall frame wrapped in armor polished to a shine, her steps loud and confident. When the warriors saw her, they bowed their heads with respect, but when their eyes shifted back to the human, their smiles returned, sharp as blades. One warrior leaned on her spear and smirked. "So this is the human you bound yourself to? Small, fragile. He will break before the week ends." Another laughed. "Perhaps he will serve as her servant, polishing her armor, not her partner." The human clenched his fists, but said nothing. The giantess turned her fiery eyes toward them, her voice sharp. "Mock if you wish, but remember our law." His words were spoken, my vow accepted. None may break it unless they defeat me. The hall fell silent again, no one daring to challenge her. She walked to the human and extended her hand, her voice softening. "Come, today you will see our customs. You will learn our ways." Reluctantly, he placed his small hand in her massive palm, and she lifted him to his feet with ease. The day unfolded with rituals he could barely understand. At the great feast, tables groaned under the weight of roasted beasts and glowing alien fruits. The giantesses ate and drank loudly, tearing meat with strength, raising cups the size of barrels. The human was given a small plate, his portion laughable compared to theirs, but enough to fill his stomach. Every polite word he spoke seemed to ripple through the hall, misinterpreted again and again. When he told one giantess, "This meal is good," she laughed loudly and declared, "The human has offered me praise. Perhaps I should claim him next." The silver-haired giantess slammed her cup against the table, her voice thunderous. "His words are mine to answer, not yours." The human winced, realizing too late that even harmless compliments could spark conflict. Later, in the training yard, he watched as the warriors sparred with weapons longer than his entire body, their strikes shaking the ground. The giantess at his side said, "If you are to walk among us, you must show your courage, even if not your strength." Before he could protest, another warrior stepped forward, her smile cruel. "Let me test him," she said, twirling her massive spear. "Let us see if this human has anything inside him besides fear." The human froze, his throat dry, but the silver-haired giantess stepped between them, her stance protective. "You will not touch him unless I allow it," she said, her voice like stone. The rival warrior sneered. "Then prove him, or all will say your vow is hollow." The human felt the weight of every eye on him. He realized that if he refused, they would see only weakness, and his protector's honor would suffer. His voice shook, but he forced himself to speak. "I will try." The warriors laughed, some clapping in amusement. A wooden staff, light compared to their weapons, but heavy in his hands, was placed before him. The rival warrior lowered her spear to match his size, smirking. "Show us your courage, little one." The match began, and fear raced through his body. He dodged clumsy strikes, his smaller size the only advantage he had. The staff felt like a burden. Yet when desperation took over, he swung low and struck her knee. The crowd roared in laughter and surprise. Though it did not harm her, it forced her to stumble, and for a brief moment, the human stood taller in spirit than in body. The silver-haired giantess raised her arm, declaring the match ended. "Enough," she said firmly. "He has shown what matters. He does not flee," the crowd muttered, some unimpressed, but others nodding with a new respect. That night, when the hall grew quiet, the human sat alone by the fire, his mind still racing. The giantess approached, her armor set aside, her steps quieter. "You struggle," she said softly, "but you do not break. That is why I chose you." He shook his head, his voice low. "You don't understand. I never chose this. I only wanted to be polite." She crouched beside him, her eyes glowing in the firelight. "Polite or not, your words bound us, and I will not release you," she said. Her voice carried no cruelty, only certainty. The human lowered his gaze, torn between anger, fear, and something else he could not name. In the shadows above the fortress, rival warriors whispered to one another. If he survives, her honor grows. If he fails, she falls with him. And so, while the human wrestled with customs he could not understand, unseen enemies began to weave plans that could shatter both his fate and hers. The fortress grew quiet as night settled over the city of stone. The fires in the great hall burned low, leaving shadows crawling across the walls. The human sat close to one of the braziers, his hands stretched to the warmth, his mind heavy with the weight of the day. He could still hear the mocking laughter of the warriors. The way every word he spoke turned into something dangerous, something binding. He felt trapped, not by chains of iron, but by words he had not meant, words twisted into a vow he could not escape. The sound of footsteps echoed softly, heavy yet graceful. He looked up to see the silver-haired giantess approaching. Her armor was gone, replaced by a dark robe that shimmered faintly in the firelight. Her long hair falling loose over her shoulders, she stopped before him, her shadow falling across his small figure, her fiery eyes softer than before. "You are troubled," she said, her voice low. Not the command of a warrior, but the tone of someone who wished to be understood. The human stood quickly, his voice uncertain. "I don't belong here. Every word I speak makes things worse. I don't even know your rules, your laws. I am only a stranger." The giantess studied him for a moment, then lowered herself onto one knee so her eyes were level with his. "You are right. You do not know our ways, and so I will tell you." She took a deep breath, her gaze drifting to the flames. "Long ago, my people were bound by chaos. Warriors fought one another endlessly. There was no trust, no unity then. The first queen rose. She gave us law, and with it, strength." The human listened carefully. Though his heart still beat fast, she continued. "Her law was simple. Words are not wind, words are oaths. A promise spoken aloud is binding. Once given, it cannot be taken back, not even by death." The human's chest tightened as he remembered his mistake. "So when I said, 'You are beautiful,'" he whispered, "you thought I gave a vow?" The giantess nodded slowly, her fiery eyes meeting his. "Yes, in front of all, with no fear, with no hesitation." Those words became more than thanks. They became a bond, a choice. He shook his head, his voice breaking. "But I did not choose. I only wanted to be polite, to respect you." She leaned closer, her voice soft but firm. "Politeness to you is a promise to us. What you see as small, we see as great. That is why none laughed when I claimed you. They mocked, but they did not deny. Because law binds us all." The human turned away, frustration boiling inside him. "I am trapped by something I never meant," he muttered. The giantess tilted her head, her voice lower now, almost vulnerable. "Perhaps, but you are not the only one bound. I too carry the weight of your words, and I too cannot walk away." For the first time, the human saw something else in her eyes, not just fire and strength, but loneliness. She looked down at her massive hands, her voice quieter. "For many years I have been mocked, because I never chose a mate. The others said I was too proud, too stubborn," they whispered. "That no one would ever stand beside me. That I would die with no bond." Her words echoed in the silence. Carrying pain hidden deep inside, the human blinked, his anger softening. "So when I spoke, it gave you what you lacked," he said carefully. She nodded. "Yes, your words gave me honor, but more than that, they gave me something I thought I had lost, the chance to belong, the chance not to be alone." He stared at her. Torn between pity and fear, her people saw his words as a vow. But for her, it was more than tradition. It was personal. The giantess leaned closer, her voice a whisper now. "I will not force you to love me, human. But know this, I will protect you. I will fight for you, even if you curse me for it, because I cannot ignore the bond we share." The fire crackled, shadows dancing across their faces. The human swallowed hard, his heart heavy. He wanted to argue, to insist again that it was a mistake, yet something in her voice silenced him. She was not his captor, not truly. She was a prisoner of her own law. Just as he was, outside, whispers stirred in the darkness. Rival giantesses gathered in secret, their voices sharp and jealous. "If he survives, her honor grows stronger." One said, "If he fails, she will fall. We must act, we must take him or break him." The night carried the weight of schemes, unseen threads of betrayal weaving around the fortress walls. Inside, the human sat back down by the fire, the giantess watching him quietly. He could not escape, not yet, but he no longer saw only chains. He saw a secret, a pain shared, and a bond neither of them had chosen, but both were forced to bear. And in that moment, he realized that true danger was not her, but the world around them, waiting to test how strong their bond could truly be.